Okay, welcome back. We're still on page 87, and I asked, in the embedded, why isn't there a selector in here? And the answer kind of sort of should be obvious. I'm putting this inside a frickin' tag. So I don't need to do any selection. I've already told it this is where I want it to apply. Remember, that's what the selector was all about? The selector was, dude, where do you want this to go? Well, I'm telling you where I want it to go. I want it to go in that p tag. That's it. Kind of cool. All right, so makes sense? I don't need a selector because I've told it exactly where I wanted it. Okay. All right, let's continue. So, it's kind of sort of simple. You remember the rules for attributes. For the umpteenth gazillion, it's lowercase, the word, in this case, the attribute is style. You know, the equal sign and something that's in quotes. And then we have remember the declaration property, colon declaration value thing. You could do a semicolon and keep going, but there's no need for any curly braces and no need for any selectors. Okay, cool. So when would I use this? When would I embed CSS directly into the tag that I'm talking to? And the answer is very rarely, and only if it's a one-off thing. For example, I don't want to change all the text in every paragraph everywhere. That'd be a choice. If I want to change all the text everywhere, I would probably put it in up at the top inside that style attribute, or externally put it in a CSS file itself. But if it's just a one-off thing, just this one time, I want to change this one paragraph, I don't want it to apply everywhere, I'm just doing this one thing, then an inline is acceptable. Okay, cool. So let's talk about advantages and disadvantages. So first of all, it allows for a heck of a lot more formatting options than what HTML can do. So HTML used to have a way you can do color. It was actually a thing, an attribute you could use. Don't do that because that's been deprecated. Ooh, isn't that a cool term? Deprecated. Sound like you're going to the bathroom. No, deprecated, meaning it's no longer being supported, it's no longer being used, and don't use it. That's basically what that means. So whenever you see this feature has been deprecated, that means don't do that. All right. So they've taken all of that stuff out of HTML and put it into CSS. So right now, using HTML5, there's no other way to make things red. Okay? So this is it. Cool. The bad part about this is, this is clearly not separating presentation from content. I'm kind of messing with my document. I'm making it more difficult to read. In other words, I can look at this and have to go through all that before I get to my content. So that's not good. It's cluttering my document. Plus, it's making my document a little bigger. Now, admittedly, if you only used it once, this was a one-off thing, well then, I don't care, right? But if you use that style equals color, blah, 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 red 15 times in your document, well, then there's clearly a better way to do this. And then once again, it does the exact opposite of separating content from presentation. So shame on you. No, it's a good thing. I use it some, but usually when it's just a one-off thing and I don't want to have to bother with doing anything special. Okay, on page 89, they talk about the embedded. So once again, I'm going to go up to here, and I'm going to use the style, not attribute, the style tag. I'm going to do a selector, curly, and then put something in there. I'm going to go ahead and just say color equals blue. Hey, this is a good thing to ask. All right. So up here, I'm changing it to this. Find every single paragraph. So to make this work, I'm going to need another paragraph. So let's do paragraph hello world. Okay, so now, in fact, I'm going to take the block quote out. I'll leave it in there, who cares? So right now I have two paragraphs. This P selector means find every single P tag in my entire document and change the text to blue. Cool. This one says So it's going to change this text to blue. It's going to change this text to blue. And then it's going to turn right around and change this one to red. Once again, coats of paint. What do you think is going to happen? Yeah, we're actually going to go through this in a little bit more detail coming up. But it did kind of sort of what you'd expect. It works in the order in which they appear. So yes, it kind of sort of changed that one to blue and then turned around and put a red coat of paint on top of it. So this one is tighter. In other words, in the order of precedence, it's closer to the text. So whatever's closest to the text wins. Okay, cool. All right, let's continue. So one more time, why is it inside the head tag? Well, because it's not content. Content is what appears in the body. Head is not content. The stuff that appears in the head does not show up rendered in the page. Okay, cool. So a lot of people have some formatting things. I've seen this. I mean, I know this looks a little weird, but I have seen that as a technique for formatting, where they actually put the selector on one line with the opening curly brace, then the words, and then a closing one underneath there. I am not going to enforce any type of rules on how formatting works. My only rule is I got to be able to look at it and tell what the heck's going on. If I can tell what the heck's going on, you're good. If I can't figure out what the heck you're doing, I'm going to start taking points off. But that is one of the styles that you'll see. A lot of the textbooks show that. Yeah, I think I'm a minimalist. I like things to be concise. I imagine if I had a gazillion different things, well, okay, I maybe would have spread it out. And I will tell you this. Embedded, I usually kind of put them all in one line, and then when we finally get to the external, that's where I kind of break it out like to make it look like that. But hey, what the heck. All right, so formatting kind of sort of matters, but I'm not going to enforce a particular rule. So indentation and multi-line formatting is completely optional. All right. So remember this tag here? What if I was to change this, instead of P, I want to change this to body. Now, body means go find the body tag and then change everything in there is to blue. So before, the block quote did not change colors. Is that correct? Because I was told it to go to find every single P tag. Well, that's not a P tag. Okay, so let's hit the button. Wait a minute. How come it turned blue this time? It's what's called cascading. Remember cascading style sheets? So what that basically means is that if you apply a style at one level, like the body level, it'll be inherited by everything inside the body tag. So the body tag starts here and ends here, and I told it put everything in blue, and so it says P. Well, that's inside, so I'm changing it. Block quote, yeah, that's inside, so I'm changing it. P, again, yeah, that's inside, I'm going to change it. So cascading style sheets. Cool. All right. Let's continue. So body is a cool tag that we can use that basically means everything. Because remember, head is instructions that don't get rendered, and body is the actual content that does get rendered. So if you want everything, if you want to apply a particular style to everything, then the body tag would be the highest of that indentation level, so to speak. In other words, the body tag is the very top of the pyramid, and then it could have multiple other tags coming off of it. So it's the top level tag, so to speak. Okay, when do you use this? Well, I would use this if I wanted to make changes to multiple things in a single document. In other words, I want to find every single block quote or every single unordered list or whatever. Every single one of those, and I want to change them all. Then using this particular technique, this embedded technique, is the way to go. Cool. Advantages and disadvantages. So, yes, you can do multiple changes to one line of code. If I go here and change this to, I don't know, I'm kind of running out of colors here in my head. Oh, let's use green. That's good. So this is edit one and done. That's pretty cool, right? I mean, that's a pretty good advantage. I can change things to, that's god-awful looking green, but who cares? Notice too that the order of precedence hadn't changed. You know, the things that's closest to the text wins. Okay, cool. So just I turned everything green, then I turned one part red. So it does make the document a little larger. Okay, I'll admit that. And so we'll have to wait until we get to the external one to be able to show how you can actually make things a little bit more efficient. Okay. On page 92, they talk about text, configuring text. The first one of those declaration properties they talk about is what's called font family. And let's stop just for just a second and talk about how fonts are worked. Okay. Every machine is slightly different. You have a Linux box over here and a Mac over here, maybe an iPad over here, and a Windows box and a phone. God only knows what. They're all using a different operating system, and they all have slightly different fonts. So it's typically a bad idea to call out a font by its exact name, like Times New Roman. Okay, that's a particular font that I'm very familiar with from the Windows days, but my iPad may not have Times. It may be called Times Roman. There, not Times New Roman, right? Or it could be called Roman, or it could be called something else. And so instead of talking about fonts by their specific name, you talk to them by family. You give it like a code word or an abbreviation or something that basically says what we want. All right. So on page 93, they have what's called these categories of fonts. So the way this thing works is, if I was to go here, I'm going to get rid of this and go back to the P tag because that looks ridiculous. So I'm going to go P as my selector and I'm up here, so I need the curly braces. And so and my declaration property is going to be font family. Now that sounds like two words, doesn't it? So that would be font dash family colon. Now here's where it's interesting. Here's some suggestions. And I'm going to use this one. And the suggestion is Times New Roman, which is being the most specific. This is, if you have this, I really want that. So I'm going to go ahead and click this. I don't like to type, so I'm going to do this. So what this basically means is I'd like for this to be Times New Roman. If that's not the case, give me a font that has the word Times in it somewhere. Because it could be called, Times Roman or something else. And if that don't work, then just give me anything that is a serif font. And I'm not going to teach you about fonts, but serifs are the ones where there's little hooks on the ends, like a capital T would have the thing at the bottom have a little pedestal at the bottom. Okay, so let's run this. And okay, that doesn't look hardly any different at all. Anyway, Times New Roman. There's a couple of interesting things here. And that is, how do you separate, if I'm inside a declaration value, how do you separate things? And the answer is kind of weird. Separate them by commas, and if there's multiple words, you have to put those things in quotes. Now, the machine is extraordinarily forgiving about putting things in either single quotes or double quotes. It really doesn't, for its perspective, it doesn't matter. But let's just say I wanted to make this double quotes. Okay, will this work if I put this in double quotes? And the answer is yes, it will. Okay, but what if I was to copy and paste this inside this guy right here? Well, then wouldn't I have a problem? Because now I've got quotes and quotes and quotes. That just don't work well. Okay, we're going to pause this for just a minute, and we'll be back in just a second.